Tonight on Y News. Senator Panfilo Lacson sees no probative value in Arturo Lascañas' new admissions as the Senate inquiry on the alleged Davao death squad resumes. Pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Lim Napoles accuses Senator Laila de Lima of extortion in return for dropping the serious illegal detention case filed against her by Ben Hurluy. The Clark International Airport Corporation readies for possible flight diversion in the coming days as the Tagaytay Radar 6-day temporary shutdown begins today.
The Philippine National Police relaunches war against drugs with the creation of the PNP Drug Enforcement Agency. President Rodrigo Duterte names his first appointee, Sandigan Bayan Justice Samuel Martires, as the new Justice of the Supreme Court. And the Department of Health accords slain volunteer Dr. Dreyfus Perlas with the Bayani ng Kalusugan Award.
Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center, this is Y News with Angelo Castro III and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. President Rodrigo Duterte names his first appointee in the person of Sandigan Bayan Associate Justice Samuel Martires as the new Justice of the Supreme Court. SC spokesperson Attorney Theodore Te confirms that Martires' appointment has been forwarded today to the Office of Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. Martires is now the 175th magistrate of the Supreme Court, replacing Justice Jose Perez, who retired in December. Meanwhile, PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa assures anew the safety and security of Senator Laila de Lima while in detention. Grace Cassin will tell us why.
Senator Laila de Lima once again fears for her life inside the PNP Custodial Center. This after the spread of fake news on social media, saying she attempted to commit suicide inside a detention cell. In a statement, de Lima says the fake news is claiming that she has lost her mind after being arrested. She says those responsible for the fake news are conditioning the minds of the people that should anything bad happen to her, no one else is to blame. De Lima refutes the fake news by affirming that her health is in good condition. De Lima adds that there is no apparent reason for her to die of an illness or to commit suicide. But PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa once again assures that Senator De Lima is safe inside the PNP detention cell.
Very safe siya. Walang problema doon. Safe na safe siya.
De Lima has been in detention for more than 2 weeks already. There is a 24-hour security in the vicinity of the custodial center. During the weekend, former DSWD Secretary Dinky Soliman, former DepEd Secretary Armin Luistro, and former DBM Secretary Butch Abad's daughter Julia visited De Lima in her detention cell. For those who are not on the list given by the senator are not allowed to visit and enter the detention cell. Grace Cassin, UNTV News and Rescue. Kam Krame.
The NBI arrested a suspect who impersonated former NIA Chief Peter Laviña to solicit 1 million pesos from a local bank. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
After several weeks of operation, the NBI arrested this man who was impersonating government officials to solicit money from businessmen. The suspect, identified as Vimby Flores Avilla, was arrested by the NBI Anti-Graft Division in a restaurant in San Pedro City, Laguna. He has an outstanding arrest warrant issued by the Manila RTC. Prior to this, the NBI arrested his alleged accomplice, Jericho J. Sauco, in an entrapment operation who opted to cooperate with the authorities afterwards. Jericho narrates that Avilla entered into a business partnership with her company and used his account as depository of the supposed share. Later on, they learned that the money came from his victims.
Masaya po ako, sir, kasi natunto na po yung suspect na yun na nanloko po sa amin last year. Yun nga po, sir, na brainwash nga po kami. So parang talagang sa sobrang galing niya po talagang magsalita.
One of Avila's victims is a local bank from which he was able to solicit 1 million pesos, supposedly for the victory party of then President-elect Rodrigo Duterte. He introduced himself as former NIA Chief Peter Laviña, who was then Duterte's campaign spokesperson. When his cell phone was subjected to forensic examination, the NBI also learned that he was able to solicit 950,000 pesos from a businessman after posing as DOTR Secretary Arturo Lascañas.
In 2016, he introduced himself as Secretary Laviña, and in 2017, he introduced himself as Secretary Tugade, asking for donations. In the case of Secretary Tugade, he was asking for donations from businessmen para dun sa victims ng Surigao earthquake. So we are warning the public to be extra cautious of persons who misrepresent and introduce themselves as government officials.
Based on NBI records, the suspect was previously arrested in 2012 for extorting money from a business tycoon after he impersonated then Vice President Jejomar Binay, but he was released on bail. The suspect refused to comment on the allegations, saying he wanted to talk to his lawyer first.
Hindi ko alam yun doon. Wala pa akong idea, wala pa akong idea.
The suspects will be charged for estafa as the NBI goes after their possible accomplices. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
More than 700 flights were canceled starting today until Sunday at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Joan Nano will tell us why.
The 6-day temporary shutdown of the air traffic radar in Tagaytay City begins today. The air traffic radar in Tagaytay is the one being used by the Ninoy Aquino International Airport for entering flights in Manila. The temporary shutdown prompted the cancellation of more than 700 flights daily beginning today until Sunday. The Manila International Airport Authority says airline companies are informed in advance to advise their passengers about the flight cancellation so they could rebook flight schedules.
Meron tayong 700 flights na, or a little slightly over, na kinikater araw-araw. Okay. Since kailangan po natin i-upgrade at pangangailangan po talaga yan na may saayos ng CAP yung radar sa Tagaytay. Nakiusap po kami sa mga airlines, specifically yung mga domestic carriers na tulungan at masaayos yung panibagong flight schedules.
Shoni Flores is among the passengers advised about the flight cancellation. From her original flight schedule of March 9 from Dubai to Manila, she moved her schedule to March 5 so as not to be affected by the flight cancellation.
March 9, ako nagpa-booking ng ticket ko, and then 1 week before this flight, nagtawag siya sa akin. So inabisuhan niya ako kung gusto ko up to 9 o below to 9 na date. Wag lang sa 6 to 11. Naabisuhan ako ng mas maaga.
MIA reminds passengers to check on their travel agencies and airline companies about the changes on their scheduled flights before going to the airport to avoid inconvenience. MIA explains the repair and rehabilitation of the Tagaytay radar will help in avoiding any engine trouble of airplanes and in improving services at the airport.
Kung wala ho tayong reliable radar, medyo hindi ho maganda. At hahaba ho ang separation ng bawat eroplano kasi ho, mabuti na ho yung malayo at hindi ho sila talagang kakaroon ng aberya. With the radar involved, pagka maayos yung radar natin, ang minimum separation ho iikse. So ibig sabihin, marami ho tayong matatanggap na maglalanding at magte-take off sa ating paliparan.
The maintenance shutdown will be completed on March 11 Sunday at 6 in the morning. Afterwards, operations at the NIA will return to normal. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
The Clark International Airport assures the public of its readiness to accommodate flight diversions from the Ninoy Aquino International Airport in the coming days. Jun Surya will tell us why.
The Clark International Airport Corporation or CIAC has met with members of Airline Operators Council Manila to discuss the plan for the possible diversion of flights from Manila to Clark International Airport in Pampanga. This comes following the temporary shutdown of the Tagaytay Raider, which is currently undergoing an upgrade and maintenance. The temporary shutdown begins today. CIAC has already created plans on accepting diverted flights from NIA to the Clark Airport. CIAC management says the airport is prepared to carry the diverted flights from NIA starting next week.
Nag-usap kami ng maayos at tinanong sa amin paano kami makakatulong sa paghahanda namin just in case magkakaroon ng diversions.
Among the preparations set in place are the parking area of the planes, waiting areas for the passengers, and transportation to the passengers' destinations. CIAC also assures the public of its readiness to help in addressing NIA's problems and easing the passengers' inconvenience in their flights.
Andyan naman ang airfield natin. Ang una kasi, ang mangyayari lang dyan, yung maglalanding lang sila. Tapos magpapark lang sila. Okay. And then later on, pag mag-park na sila, later on, pag ready na yung runway sa Manila, babalik na sila sa Manila. That's one. Okay. So, sa pagpaparking na dito, walang problema kasi meron tayong sufficient parking base. Okay. Whether narrowed or wide-bodied aircrafts.
The temporary shutdown of the Tagaytay Raider is expected to result into cancellation of flights at the NIA. The Clark International Airport can accommodate 33 flights in the morning and 26 flights in the evening. The upgrade in the Tagaytay Raider includes the installation of a new technology in communication, navigation, surveillance, air traffic management, a system that would ensure the proper flow of air traffic. Jun Suriao, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Senator Panfilo Lacson, who heads the Senate Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, sees no probative value in the new admissions of retired police Arturo Lascañas regarding the alleged killings of the Davao Death Squad. Joyce Balancho, please tell us why.
Retired Police Arturo Lascañas admitted during the 5-hour Senate hearing today that he killed more than 200 people after joining the alleged Davao Death Squad or DDS. He said Edgar Matubato's prior testimony before the Senate hearing last October is 90% true. He claimed taking part in the bombing of a Muslim mosque in Mindanao as well as in the slay of radio commentator Jun Pala, of former soldier Jun Bersabal, and of a Taiwanese named Charlie Tan. He also targeted an individual who had a conflict with Mayor Duterte's son, Paulo. Lascañas also admitted there were about 30 people who were accidentally killed during DDS. Lascañas admitted there were also about 30 people who were accidentally killed during DDS operations. He confessed that even PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa was ordered by then Mayor Duterte to take part in the killing of Felicissimo Conanan Jr. and his men. Conanan was said to be one of the most wanted criminals in Davao del Sur.
Pumunta si Mayor and then kasama si City Director Bato De La Rosa. Dito, minura ni Mayor ang dalawa, pinagalitan, and then for almost an hour, umalis si Mayor. Pero ang instruction niya bago siya umalis, sa aming dalawa ni Senior Superintendent Bato De La Rosa, is patayin nyo na yan.
If the Senate needs proof, Lascañas said he can show the Laod Quarry in Davao where they have placed the bodies of their victims, including the remains of Patasaha family whom they have killed also. During Senator Grace Poe's questioning, it was revealed that Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre, who was then the legal counsel of Quarry's owner, was involved in hindering the investigation on the said quarry.
It was Bienvenido Laod, the owner of the quarry at that time, and his lawyer was Vitaliano Aguirre, Your Honor.
Some senators doubted the credibility of Arturo Lascañas. Senator Lacson questioned how Lascañas seemed to forget the name of the first person he killed while remembering every bit of detail of his encounter with Mayor Duterte. Even the agenda of Lascañas lawyers from the Free Legal Assistance Group or FLAG is questioned by the senator. He said they might be taking part in a destabilization plot against the administration. Committee Chair Senator Panfilo Lacson says there is no probative value on Lascañas' testimony. This after the latter mentioned the killing of the dance instructor of Jocelyn Duterte, who the senator said is reported to be alive and well. Hence, they have adjourned the hearing.
We adjourned it kasi wala naman kami makitang punto na eh.
Lacson says he is leaving the matters to the PNP and CHR in case they want to conduct an investigation on the admissions of Lascañas. Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Presidential sister Jocelyn Duterte-Villarica says Arthur Lascañas is a liar and that Senator Antonio Trillanes IV must resign from office. Victor Cosari will tell us why.
On her Facebook post, presidential sister Jocelyn Duterte-Villarica stresses that her dance instructor is very much alive, refuting the claim of retired police officer Arthur Lascañas during the Senate hearing early today that they abducted her dance instructor and killed him because of deceiving Jocelyn. She says Ruben Borja Baguio is her dance instructor since 2007 and she last met him only last month. Jocelyn also pointed out that she never hired the service of any other dance instructor aside from Baguio.
It's 100% not true. Ang insinuation kasi na pinapatay, it doesn't sound good. Hindi totoo yan. I'm not that kind of a woman and that kind of a person.
The presidential sister puts the blame on Senator Antonio Trillanes IV for bringing out a false witness and appeals that the lawmaker resigns because of this new blunder.
Why is Senator Trillanes still, wala ba siyang ethics na nagsasabi na bago mo mag-present ka ng witness? Tingnan mo muna kung ang sinasabi ng witness mo ay totoo ba o hindi. Ang credibility niya as a senator, as far as I'm concerned, it's a very big question ngayon.
Duterte-Villarica says the issue is not new since self-confessed hitman Edgar Matubato has already brought up the matter in the past and she has already dismissed the pronouncement. She says she is willing to present Baguio in the Senate inquiry to prove that he is alive and still continues to work as a dance instructor. She adds that bringing up this old unfounded issue may just be a part of a destabilization plot that has been going around. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Davao City.
Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre says the allegations of self-confessed hitman Arthur Lascañas should not be accepted because nothing has been proven. During the investigation of then Commission on Human Rights Chief and now Senator Laila de Lima on the Laud Quarry issue. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre did not deny that he became a counsel for Bienvenido Laud, the owner of the quarry site wherein the bones of alleged victims of Davao death squad were buried. But the secretary said the allegations of the self-confessed hitman Arthur Lascañas must not be accepted since these are not proven when the Department of Justice and the Commission on Human Rights, through its leadership of now Senator Laila de Lima, made an investigation of it. The proof is CHR did not even file a case on it.
Pero walang napruebahan ng CHR, walang napruebahan ng DOJ na yung mga nakalibing doon ay talagang biktima ng DDS. Matter of fact, lumalabas nga doon parang mga buto ng animals yung hindi ng tao, yung mga nahukay doon eh.
Secretary Aguirre also reiterated that the site was a cemetery of the guerrilla during the Japanese occupation, and it is not surprising that remains could be exhumed from the site. For the administration, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Attorney Salvador Panelo said the testimony of Lascañas in the Senate investigation about the Davao death squad is fabricated. As pointed out by Senator Lacson, there is a contradiction between the statement made by Lascañas during his public confession and in his affidavit executed the day before his press conference. Attorney Panelo also denied the allegation of Lascañas that the president ordered the killing of a woman and a child. The Presidential Legal Counsel said President Duterte abhors extrajudicial killings and he will not tolerate those who are doing it. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Alleged pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Lim Napoles accuses Senator Laila de Lima of extortion. Monokson will tell us why.
Senator Laila de Lima supposedly tried to extort money from alleged pork barrel scam queen Janet Lim Napoles in return for dropping the serious illegal detention case filed against her by Ben Horloy. Janet Lim Napoles says that although the Justice Department had already dismissed her case earlier, various personalities still asked for bribe to keep the case from being reopened.
Wala naman po talagang illegal detention na nangyari. Ito po ay extortion lamang. Dismiss na po ang kaso na to sa DOJ noon pa.
Ma'am, sino po nag-extort ng pera?
Sino?
Isa si Secretary Laila de Lima.
Napoles declined from naming the other individuals who tried to extort money from her.
Hindi extort kayo ni De Lima dun sa kaso nyo, illegal detention. Tama.
Isa po siya.
Isa sa mga nag-extort. Sino pa ma'am yung sinasabi nyo na pwedeng nag-extort sa inyo?
Ma'am, sa inyo pa mismo yung extort yung pera? Yes or no lang ma'am? Sa inyo po ba yung extort mismo yung pera?
Yes.
She added that De Lima and others wanted to extort a total of 300 million pesos from her. Meanwhile, former Senator Jinggoy Estrada says that the manifestation of the Solicitor General in the illegal detention case will help acquit Napoles. Estrada added that the manifestation will discredit Ben Horloy as a credible witness.
I'm not a lawyer, but I think the credibility of their main witness of the former administration, siyempre madi-discredit siya.
As of now, the decision to acquit Napoles on the serious illegal detention case is in the hands of the Supreme Court. President Duterte backed the manifestation of the Solgen to acquit Napoles. Monhokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Sandigan Bayan.
In response to that report, Senator Laila de Lima, in a statement today, denies Janet Lim Napoles' allegation. Describe her as, quote, polluted source, end of quote, and pathological liar. De Lima says Napoles has a propensity to lie, being the mastermind of the PDAF scam that funneled billions of public funds to the pockets of legislators and executive officials. De Lima also calls Napoles a liar and will continue to lie and say anything to save herself and keep the money she stole from the government. De Lima's lawyer Alexander Padilla also questioned the timing of Napoles' statement and accused her of forging a deal with the Duterte administration.
Next on Y News. 8 women top Philippine Military Academy Salaknib class of 2017.
And the Embassy of the Philippines in Russia orients overseas Filipino workers on the provisions on religious practices under Moscow's Yarab-Rayovara law.
Y News will be right back. The camp of former Senator Bongbong Marcos has accused Vice President Leni Robredo of delaying the resolution protest. This as Marcos lawyers filed their reply to Robredo's comment on his election protest, opposing the conduct of preliminary conference. Marcos' election protest was filed in July last year, while the last pleading was submitted to the court more than 5 months ago.
It has become obvious that delay is the name of Leni Robredo's game, and it has been months after Senator Marcos have filed this election protest, and they're doing everything. She is determined to suppress the genuine will of the Filipino people. She is determined not to proceed with the preliminary conference sapagkat nga po natatakot siya na may sambulat ang katotohanan.
Robredo's lawyer, attorney Romulo Macalintal, previously said that there are still issues to be settled before the preliminary conference could be set, such as in which municipalities in particular the tribunal will order reopening of ballots. Meanwhile, House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez plans to file a new bill which will include plunder and rape as crimes punishable by death. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez clarifies that this is not the end of the inclusion of other crimes which may be included in the current death penalty reimposition bill. This is the reaction of the House Speaker after President Duterte questioned why plunder and rape are not included in the death penalty reimposition bill.
Dahil medyo controversial sa konti. So gawin natin, ipasa muna natin yung paisa-isa. Paisa-isa. Hindi naman kailangan lahat din eh.
According to the House Speaker, he plans to file a bill for the inclusion the said crimes, but this provision may possibly be inserted in the BICAM. Congressman Edsel Lagman believes that inserting additional crimes may possibly happen at the bicameral.
This malevolent eventuality in the Bicameral Conference Committee must be seriously considered by the members of the House when they vote on third reading anytime this week.
The lawmaker assures that they will continue to oppose the passage of the controversial bill. Still, the House Speaker stresses that he will not hesitate to remove members of majority coalition who have committee chairmanship unless they vote in favor of the death penalty reimposition bill. This is the warning of Speaker Alvarez now that the nominal voting for the passage on the third and final reading of the bill is drawing near.
Papalitan lang doon sa posisyon. Hindi tatanggalin.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The police is now ready to resume its operations against illegal drugs after a month of cleansing its ranks of erring members. Leah Ilagan will tell us why.
We are back in the war on drugs. We have relaunched this morning our project Double Barrel Reloaded.
The Philippine National Police or PNP will resume conducting operations against illegal drugs after the creation of the PNP Drug Enforcement Group or PDEG, which replaces the now defunct Anti-Illegal Drugs Group or AIDG. The new police unit applies not only on the national level but also on the regional, provincial and municipal levels, knocking on doors of suspected drug personalities under the Oplan Tukang and Oplan Double Barrel Alpha Reloaded will also resume under the new campaign. However, PNP Chief Police Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa says the Chief of Police as well as territorial heads like barangay chairman and religious leaders will participate during the door-to-door knockings. De la Rosa says this would help avoid violence during Oplan Tukang operations.
Para lalabas na mas credible ito ating kampanya. Nakikiusap tayo sa ating mga kaparian at tulungan nila tayo. Ikaw ba naman, ikaw ay drug personality na kinatok yung bahay mo, pagkatok, pagsilip mo, ang nandoon sa harapan ng pintuan mo ay yung chief of police, yung barangay kapitan at saka yung pare ninyo, yung siguro mas lalambot ang puso mo na magigibiin ka sa kanilang pakiusap na magbago ka na or kung hindi ka pa nagbago, magpaparehab ka.
The police chief also assures that they have thoroughly chosen those who will be part of PDEG, which will be led by Police Senior Superintendent Graciano Mijares, the former Deputy Regional Director for Administration of Central Luzon.
Siya po'y tubong Mindanao. Yung kanyang serbisyo ay moro nakatutok sa anti-organized crime. So, veterano na ito sa gira sa mga kidnappers, mga drug lords doon sa Mindanao. Ilang bisis na ito nabaril. Marami ng tama yung katawan nito kaya hindi na ito takot mamatay.
With the relaunch of PNP fight against illegal drugs, PNP is optimistic about succeeding in the new anti-drug operations as there are now available rehabilitation centers for drug surrenderers. Local government units also vow to help surrenders with non-serious condition by having them undergo various activities, while those with serious drug addiction will be confined in a drug rehabilitation center in Nueva Ecija.
But this time, after around almost 8 months, almost all the local government units have already established their own localized drug rehabilitation program. So ito ngayon magkikater sa mga gusto magpaparehab. At yung sa mga matitinding kaso na kailangan talaga na masinsinan na rehabilitation, we can refer them to the DOH Drug Rehabilitation Facility doon sa Nueva Ecija. Doon sila dadalhin. At doon naman sa mga lugar kung saan medyo mahina yung ibang local government units na hindi pa na-establish, hindi pa naitatag yung kanilang drug rehabilitation program na lokal, yung PNP, sasagutin po ng PNP ang problema na yan.
In the 1.2 million recorded drug users across the country within 8 months, 90% of them do not have serious drug addiction and thus can be treated through community-based rehabilitation programs. Nea Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue Camp Krami.
8 women are among the graduates of the Salaknib class of 2017 of the Philippine Military Academy. Ray Palayo will tell us why.
Rowie Mayrel Martinez is among the top 10 cadets of the Philippine Military Academy Salaknib class of 2017 who graduated this year.
Parang kung ano ako ngayon, parang in service po, sa country ko natin sa
Of the top 10 cadets, 8 are women and Martinez is this year's valedictorian. Martinez is the daughter of a barangay councilor in Barangay Bangad, Cabanatuan, Nueva Ecija. Aside from being a top of her class, she also received awards like the Presidential Sabre, Academic Group Award, Navy Professional Courses Plaque, and Australian Defense Force Award, among others. Second in his class is Philip Vizcaya from Ligao City, Albay. Top 3 is Eda Marapao from Baguio City. Among the top 10 are Kathleen Baybayan and Carlo Canlasong, Pampanga, Sheila Joy Haljorina of Nueva Vizcaya, Sheila Marie de Guzman from Pangasinan, Joyce Fonchica of Butuan City, Resi Hucalla of Nabunturan, Compostela Valley, and Catherine May Gonzalez from Zamboanga City. The graduating PMA Salaknib class of 2017 is composed of 167 cadets. The first ever female PMA graduate says gender is never an obstacle in achieving your dreams.
For those who would like to be in the academy or be in the military, so you can experience a wide range of good experiences, and you'll see you will not only think that it's for malalakas or mga lalaki. It's open to everyone. So it's open to those who would like to be in service to the country. And I encourage you to take a look at it. And this is a very noble profession. And that we're giving back to the country that was also giving the best of us.
The first batch of women who were able to join the PMA was in 1993. The graduate rites this year is to be led by President Rodrigo Duterte on March 12. It will be Duterte's first ever attendance to the PMA graduation since he took office. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte has accepted the resignation of Home Development Mutual or Pag-ibig Fund Executive Officer and President Darlene Berberabe. The Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Pag-ibig Fund and Senior Vice President of its IT sector, Ahmad Moti, will serve as the agency's officer in charge. Berberabe served as the CEO and President of Pag-ibig Fund for more than 6 years. Under her leadership, the agency's membership increased to 17 million from 10 million in 2010. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources and the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, will allocate a 1 billion peso fund for the protection of endangered species in the Philippines. Ray Palayo will tell us why.
U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines Sung Kim says the country has many areas with wildlife species that require protection and monitoring. For this reason, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and USAID launched today a biodiversity project which aims to protect endangered species in the country against wildlife trafficking, illegal fishing, land use conversion, irresponsible mining, and other illegal activities. The project, called Protect Wildlife, will run for 5 years and will have 1.2 billion peso fund.
This 5-year, $24.5 million project, that's 1.2 billion pesos, will combat wildlife trafficking and protect wildlife habitats in highly biodiverse areas in this great country.
Environment Secretary Gina Lopez says the project is significant in ensuring that the country's wildlife is preserved despite land developments in the country.
The country's way out of poverty is area development. It's taking each area and seeing the specialness, the uniqueness, the beauty, the specialness of what's there, and ensuring that that specialness benefits the people living there, and at the end of the day will benefit everyone else. And I do see that wildlife is an integral part of all of this.
The pilot area of the project will be Palawan. It will cover the Tubataha Reef, the Sulu Archipelago, as well as protected areas in Zamboanga City and Tawi-Tawi. The project was launched following the World Wildlife Day celebration of the United Nations. The United Nations notes that over the past 4 decades, the planet has lost as much as 50% of its wild animals and plants due to climate change, habitat loss, overexploitation, poaching, and illicit trafficking. Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
President Rodrigo Duterte's economic managers allay fears of some lawmakers over the possibility of a decline in car sales and an increase in transportation fares due to the tax reform package of the administration. Meanwhile, House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez orders a review on the tax system of religious institutions. Nel Mariboc will tell us why.
House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez orders a study on the possibility of reforming the tax system of religious institutions, particularly those belonging to the non-stock and profit institutions. The House Speaker wants to particularly look into the tax rates imposed on schools owned by religious groups as well as their investments.
Itong mga schools na to, they don't cater for the poor. Palaging nag-i-increase ng tuition fees yan.
If the income is not for education purpose, it should be taxed.
Speaker Alvarez orders the submission of income tax returns of all religious institutions to the House Committee, which will be reviewed by the lawmakers for possible amendments of their tax rates. This afternoon, almost all Duterte cabinet members attended the hearing of the House Committee on Ways and Means on the comprehensive tax reform package of the administration. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez has once again defended the proposal to reform the country's tax system, including the lowering of personal income and corporate taxes and the increase in excise taxes of petroleum products and automobiles. The Finance Secretary says the losses due to the tax increase on such products will be augmented by the lowering on the personal income tax rate.
Many people will benefit and in fact will have an extra maybe 20 or 30,000 pesos a year, which they can use to buy, to use for payments for a car.
Despite this, the economic managers remain open to considering the compromised agreement on automobile tax if the proposed tax rates of the administration will only be slightly lowered. The Finance Department also explains that the increase on petroleum excise taxes will have little effect on transport fares, particularly on airline cost.
Trends we see nowadays is that the pass on of higher fuel on the rest of the economy is very minimal nowadays compared to say 10 or 20 years ago.
Nel Mariboc, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Embassy of the Philippines in Russia held an orientation on the Yarovaya law for overseas Filipino workers. Ronald De Guzman will tell us why.
It was in July 2016 when Russian President Vladimir Putin signed the Yarovaya Law or the Anti-Terrorism Law, which earned opposition from various human rights advocates and religious communities because their freedom on religion is affected, especially expats in the country. Through a seminar on religious practices and laws, the Philippine Embassy in Russia had reminded Filipinos to be cautious in conducting any spiritual gatherings, especially without fully understanding the Yarovaya Law. Russian lawyer attorney Stanislav Kulov, an expert on religion and freedom of conscience of the Slavic Center for Law and Justice in Moscow, says any foreign national living within the territory of the Russian Federation has freedom of conscience and freedom of religion like Russians. However, they must have documents proving residency in the Russian territory.
It's very important for foreigners because in Russian Federation, according to this federal law, foreign nationals and stateless person that legally stay, so you have all documents or all data that needed to entry for Russian Federation.
Several Filipinos, meanwhile, are thankful because they found clarity on the do's and don'ts when conducting a religious activity to avoid problems.
Para sa akin, napakaganda ng seminar na ito dahil mas lumawak pa ang aking kaalaman about sa religious practices dito sa Moscow. Sana mas dumami pa ang mga ganitong klaseng seminar dito sa Embahada ng Pilipinas.
Ambassador Carlos Soreta clarifies that religious practices in Russia are not completely prohibited. However, the Yarovaya law focuses on certain issues, especially those involving terrorism and security.
Ang malinaw po ay hindi naman pinagbabawal ang pa-practice ng religion. Meron lang mga bagay na may mga practice na medyo minamanaman ng Russia para naman protektahan yung karapatan ng mga ibang ayaw makinig sa ibang mga sinasabi ng mga tao. Parang yung practice nyo, pwede yung ng religion, pwede yung gawin, ngunit sa paraan na hindi nagiging offensive sa ibang mga tao o sa paraan na hindi nagva-violate ng tinatawag nilang public order. Yun lang po naman yung batas. Hindi naman po criminal yung batas. Hindi po kayo ikukulong. Kayo po ay pwedeng patawan ng fine. At handa naman po kami agad-agad na tumulong sa inyo.
Meanwhile, the Embassy of the Philippines here in Russia is preparing for the visit of President Rodrigo Duterte in May. This is the first time after 2 decades that a Philippine president will visit the world's largest nation after former President Fidel Ramos in 1997. Ronald de Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue, Moscow, Russia.
The Department of Health, or DOH, is appealing to local government units to help in ensuring the safety of volunteer doctors, especially those who are deployed in remote villages. Robbie de Guzman will tell us why.
I directed the Department of Health to revisit, and of course the Human Resource Development Bureau, to revisit and amend the Magna Carta for Public Health Workers, to reinforce benefits and security provisions that could ensure the safety and protection of health workers, particularly those deployed in hardship posts in geographically isolated depressed areas and localities identified as high risk for violence.
The Department of Health, or DOH, has called on local government units to cooperate in ensuring the safety of health workers across the country, especially those who voluntarily serve in far-flung places where their lives are at risk. This comes after the recent killing of volunteer Dr. Dreyfus Perlas. Dreyfus was shot in the head by an unidentified suspect last Wednesday evening in Kapatagan, Lanao del Norte, while on his way home from a medical mission. The DOH Regional Health Office is now coordinating with local authorities in Lanao del Norte to investigate the killing of Dr. Perlas. Meanwhile, the Lanao del Norte provincial government has also formed a task force to lead the probe on his death and provide reward money to informants. This morning, DOH employees and officials were one in expressing their deepest sympathies for the death of Dreyfus. The DOH bestowed Dr. Perlas the recognition of Bayani ng Kalusugan for his 2-year service as a municipal health officer in the 5th-class municipality of Sapad, Lanao del Norte.
To award Dr. Dreyfus Perlas posthumously the Bayani ng Kalusugan Award for 2017. This particular award comes with it a 200,000 cash award to the family.
Dr. Perlas was also considered as a DOH baby as he became a medical scholar through the Bagong Doktor para sa Bayan program. He also eventually joined DOH Doctors to the Barrio program before deciding to stay in Sapad, Lanao del Norte as a full-time barrio doctor. Dr. Perlas was also known for his dedication in improving rural health units or RHUs in Sapad, Lanao del Norte. He also became active at medical missions in Sapad, helping in addressing various health emergency situations like Typhoon Pablo in Mindanao and Davao Oriental, the ambush in Lanao del Norte, and the MILF standoff in Zamboanga City. Robbie De Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Senate approves today on third and final reading a bill that seeks to grant additional 60 days to maternity leave or expectant mothers. The measures received 22 affirmative votes with no negative vote or abstention. The Senate leadership said it reflects the effort of the upper house to protect and promote the welfare of pregnant women. Under the bill, all female workers, regardless of civil status or legitimacy of the child, will be granted 120-day maternity leave with pay and an option to extend for another 30 days without pay. Solo parents, on the other hand, shall be granted a total of 150 days of maternity leave with pay. Over 4,000 Bicolanos enjoyed free medical consultation and services for a day. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
UNTV, together with its partners, revisited Bicol region to render public service. In cooperation with Members Church of God International, Bagong Henerasyon Party List, and the 9th Infantry Battalion Philippine Army based in Camarines Norte, the request of residents in 3 provinces in the region has been granted. Inmates in 2 district jails in Camarines Sur were among the beneficiaries of the free medical mission.
Alam mo, sa totoo lang, wala kaming pagsasawa na sumulat kung talagang kinakailangan namin kayo kasi ramdam namin ang 100% na serbisyong ibinibigay ng samahang ito sa amin.
Maraming salamat po. Salamat sa ating Panginoon na tayo ay pinagbigyan ng ganitong biyaya.
Malaking bagay po, malaking tulong sa amin na nagkaroon ng ganito na medical mission dahil po talagang yan po ang kailangan namin talaga dito.
2 barangays in Camarines Norte also appreciated the group's effort to provide medical assistance.
Una-una po sa lahat, nagpapasalamat po kami sa UNTV dahil napaunlakan po yung aming imbitasyon na makapag-conduct nga po ng medical mission. Lubos po kaming natutuwa nang sa ganun yung mga tao sa barangay Calabasa at ganun din sa mga karatig na barangay ay matutugunan po ang kanilang problema gaya po sa kanilang health.
TV po ay mabilis at handang maghandog ng tulong.
Apart from that, the group also conducted a medical mission activity in Sorsogon City. In sum, over 4,600 Bicolanos were served by the group's free medical, optical, dental, and other medical services.
Ang UNTV naman, alam naman natin mula sa umpisa na basta't sa ikabubuti ay laging kaisa tayo. Ang advokasya kasi ng Kuya Daniel, ang paggawa ng mabuti ay hindi nagbubunga ng masama.
Ito naman po tayo hinuhubog ni Kuya Daniel at ni Brother Eli na ang paggawa ng mabuti kailan pa man at dumating sa ating mga kamay sa bawat pagkakataon, hindi na natin ito dapat palagpasin.
Last month, thousands of Bicolanos in Catanduanes and Albay also availed the free medical mission by UNTV and its partners in public service. Leslie Longbowen for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
Coming up, dozens square off in Key West's 55th annual conch shell blowing contest in Florida, USA.
And couples enjoy a slippery but fun race in the 10th annual Wife Carrying Championships in England.
More from my news after this break. Corruption scandal overshadows election campaign in France. Jungarin will tell us why.
Close to 8,000 protesters gathered at Paris's Place de la République on Sunday to demonstrate against corruption as embattled French presidential candidate François Fillon delivered a defiant speech to thousands of supporters at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. Once the frontrunner in the presidential race, Fillon is mired in a scandal over his wife's pay. His campaign has been in serious trouble since he learned last week that he could be placed under formal investigation for misuse of public funds. Holding up signs and banging on pots, Parisians expressed their discontent.
Et là aujourd'hui, c'est notre seule façon d'exprimer. Moi, j'en ai marre de m'énerver toute seule devant ma télé, sur mon canapé. Donc, il y a un moment, il faut venir dire les choses.
Opinion polls continue to show Fillon would fail to make the second round of the April-May election. An IFO poll published on Saturday showed that more than 70% of the French voters want Fillon to drop out. Support from his camp has also fallen to 53% from 70% 2 weeks ago. Fillon has denied any wrongdoing. Sunday's rally was intended to show he still has support among the grassroots. But some protesters at the anti-corruption demonstration said Fillon's rally amounted to impropriety.
Donc il est temps qu'ils acceptent les décisions de justice et qu'ils retirent leur candidature.
The Republicans' party leaders prepared for a meeting on Monday to discuss crisis ahead of a March 17 deadline when all candidates must be formally endorsed by at least 500 elected officials. June Garin, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
Dozens square off in Key West's 55th annual conch shell blowing contest in Florida, USA. Ruth De Mesa will tell us why.
Oddly enough, it's actually a century-old tradition, blowing a conch shell like a horn. The shell is a symbol of the Florida Keys, a string of islands off the Florida mainland. To celebrate the shell, dozens squared off in Key West's 55th annual conch shell blowing contest on Saturday. Contestants range from a 3-year-old girl to the elderly and were judged in quality, duration, loudness, and novelty of the sounds produced, organizers said. Jane Shulman won the women's division.
The skills needed to blow a conch shell is just the pucker and just try. You know what I mean? Anything sound you get out of here is awesome. So just try and you will be successful.
The contest was presented by the Old Island Restoration Foundation in the garden of Key West's oldest house museum. Ruth De Mesa, UNTV News and Rescue, Florida, USA.
Couples enjoy a slippery but fun competition in England. Nino Armilio will tell us why.
The 10th annual Wife Carrying Championships took place on a wet Sunday morning in the English town of Dorking. The race, which apparently comes from a Scandinavian tradition where raiders needed to be quick escaping with womenfolk from neighboring villages, featured scores of couples racing in damp conditions.
Our conditions are going to be pretty slippy today, so we had a lot of rain and it's going to be pretty tough for everybody running in the race today. It's already tough. Carrying somebody over a course of 380 metres is tough. It's 15 metres up to the halfway point. That's double tough. It's super slippy today, extra tough, and we've got, even though it's been chucking it down with rain, we've got lots and lots of buckets full of water to chuck at them as well.
Men generally carry their wives or partners on their shoulders as they race the 380-meter course, race up steep gradients and across muddy fields. The pairs must also jump over obstacles and survive being splashed with water as they race across the finish line. There is a minimum 50-kilo weight rule for the wife or person being carried, and all competitors are weighed before entering the race to ensure they meet the requirements. This year's winners were the Welsh couple of Jack McKendrick and his Christy Jones, who picked up the coveted prize of a barrel of ale.
Amazing, yeah.
Great, yeah.
My legs are exploded, but I'm good. Still hanging out.
What was the course conditions like in the end?
Slippy, actually, yeah. Slippy. Used it to my advantage, though, so all right.
What do you think gave you the advantage then?
Today? I had Kirsty digging a helmet in me. spurring me on.
McKendrick joked that the helmet his partner was wearing kept digging into his back and spurred him on to the win. Other competitors, including James Inge from Australia, were taken aback by how arduous the course could be.
I didn't realise it was going to be so awful. It was really hard to get to the top of that hill, and you just spent, your heart's pumping, and it was much harder than I thought it was going to be.
Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
How about the husband carrying contest?
I think that would be very difficult
Angel
for
would carry
wives.
me.
Yeah.
Good job. Those are the reasons behind the news. March 6, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Darlene Basingan.
Because we need to know. We will always ask why. Thank you for watching. Why News.